Andy Dufresne sits behind the wheel of his car in the dark night, staring blankly at a house that glows with light. He opens his glove compartment and pulls out a cloth that holds a handgun and bullets. He takes a long swig from his partially filled bottle of bourbon. In a courtroom, Andy sits at the podium, being questioned about the confrontation that occurred on the night that his wife was murdered. He describes the situation as bitter, his wife stating that she was glad he knew she was cheating, and that she wanted a divorce. He says he refused her this, and that she packed a bag and left to stay with her lover. After the confrontation, Andy admits to going to a few bars and driving to her lover's house, where he waited for them to get home, with the intention of scaring them. He states he drove off, threw his gun in the river, and went home to sleep it off. The district attorney accuses him of killing his wife and her lover, as they were found dead in bed, riddled with bullets. The gun Andy claimed to throw in the river was never found, and he is given 2 life sentences in prison at Shawshank in Maine in 1947. Red enters a room with the parole board 10 years into his life sentence. Upon asking if he has been rehabilitated, he says yes. His parole is rejected. He walks out into the courtyard of Shawshank Penitentiary, approached by a fellow inmate who asks him to smuggle in an item for him. He is a smuggler and describes himself as a man who knows how to get things. A white school bus approaches the prison, filled with men that have come to serve their time. As the bus pulls up, the prisoners go wild, swarming to see the new inmates and banging on the barbed wire fence. A line of men pour out, and the prisoners begin to bet cigarettes on who will break down first. Red bets on Andy. The new prisoners are stripped and then marched to their cells with their new prison clothes in hand. As soon as the lights are shut out, the prisoners begin to taunt the new men, trying to get them to break. The new fat man breaks down, and the prisoners roar in excitement. Upon this commotion, the guards enter and beat the fat man. The next morning, in the mess hall, Andy sits down near Red and his friends. He finds a maggot in his food, and an old man named Brooks asks to have his maggot. He feeds it to his baby bird that's hidden in his pocket. Haywood sits down to collect his cigarettes from winning the bet, and a man states that his winning man died in the infirmary the previous night. As Andy showers, he is approached by a man named Boggs, who is part of a group of men known as the Sisters. They take a liking to Andy. After a month of keeping to himself, Andy approaches Red, asking him to smuggle in a rock hammer. The Sisters target Andy, beating and raping him. His first 2 years at Shawshank are dark, but things take a turn in 1949 when an outdoor job is announced. The roof on the license plate factory needs resurfacing, and they need volunteers. Many men volunteer, excited about outdoor detail, and Red and Dufresne are amongst the men chosen. While doing the outdoor labor, Andy overhears a guard, Byron Hadley, telling the other guards he has inherited money from his family, but will be taxed heavily for it. Andy stops working, walks straight over to him, and tells him how he can keep every cent of this money without getting taxed for it. He offers to set up the forms to make this happen for the fee of 3 beers apiece for his fellow inmates. On the second to last day of the job, the men sit on the roof, drinking ice-cold beer. Andy sits alone, with a smile on his face, saying he has given up alcohol. Red asks Andy why he murdered his wife, and he says he's innocent. Upon asking Red the same question, Red answers that he is guilty of murder, joking that he's the only guilty man in Shawshank. Andy asks Red for a poster of Rita Hayworth. The sisters get a hold of Andy and beat him again, sending him to the infirmary for a month. After Boggs spends a week in the hole, the guards beat him within an inch of his life. The sisters never lay a hand on Andy again, and Boggs never walks again. The men collect rocks for Andy as a welcome back gift, so that he can make pieces for his chessboard. His poster of Rita Hayworth arrives. The guards do a random search of the prisoners' cells, and Andy's cell gets chosen. The guard finds some contraband, a rock blanket and the poster of Rita, but they make exceptions and let him keep his items. Warden Norton assigns Andy to work in the library with Brooks. Guard Deakins approaches him to set up a trust fund for his children's education. Realizing his situation of being a pet to the guards, he tells his friends that he's going to ask for funds to get new books. Andy begins providing financial assistance to all guards at the prison, and this becomes his work duty. On the day that Brooks' parole is approved, he has a knife to Haywood's throat. Sobbing, Brooks states he won't be able to survive in the outside world. Brooks leaves the prison and is sent to live in a halfway house and work as a bagger in a grocery store. Unable to adjust to the world outside of prison after being locked up for 50 years, he hangs himself. A big shipment of books, records, and $200 comes in for Andy, his pleas for money finally answered after 6 years of persistence. He locks himself inside the guard's office and plays a beautiful Italian song over the intercom for the whole prison. Everyone stands frozen in awe of the music. The guard breaks down the door, and Andy gets 2 weeks in the hole, saying it's the easiest time he's ever done. Andy begins writing more letters to the board, asking for more funding and books. He receives $500 and more supplies. With these supplies, a new library is built. The warden creates a program called Inside Out, where inmates provide services outside of the prison, allowing him to get rich on bribes and dirty money. Andy tells Red how he is keeping the books for it all, and created a fake identity, Randall Stevens, as a cover for his scams. The white school bus pulls up again in 1965 with new prisoners. Tommy is one of the men, a young cocky man, in for breaking and entering. Tommy approaches Dufresne, asking for his help to get his high school diploma. Andy starts with the alphabet and teaches him to read. Red tells Tommy about Andy and how he landed in prison. Upon hearing the story, Tommy looks mortified, telling Red and Andy about a cellmate he once had, named Elmo Blatch, who confessed to killing Andy's wife and her lover. He was overjoyed that the crime was pinned on Andy. Andy goes straight to the warden, stating that Tommy could give a testimony and prove his innocence. The warden quickly shuts him down, and Andy says he would never reveal the money laundering that takes place in his prison. He sends Andy to solitary for a month. Tommy is taken outside to meet with the warden. The warden approaches him and asks if he would be willing to give a testimony on Andy's behalf, to fight for his innocence. Tommy says yes. The warden walks away, and Tommy is shot by guards. Still in the hole, Andy tells the warden that he is done running his scams. The warden says nothing stops, or he will make his life a living hell. He gives him another month in the hole to think about it. Andy sits with Red in the courtyard. He tells Red if he ever gets out, he would go to Zihuatanejo, Mexico, near the Pacific Ocean, a place with no memory. He says he would open up a hotel, buy an old boat, and take his guests out fishing. He tells him in a place like that, he could use a man who knows how to get things. He tells Red, if he ever gets out of prison, to go to a hayfield in Buxton, one with a long rock wall and a big oak tree, and to find a black volcanic glass rock. Buried under it is something Andy wants him to have. One night, Andy is writing the books for the warden in his office. He closes the book, puts it in the warden's safe, and the warden tells him to shine his shoes. He shines the shoes and goes back to his cell. He clutches a length of rope in his hand as the lights get turned out. Thunder rumbles from a storm outside. The next morning, the cells open and the prisoners step out. Andy does not. Guards shout that Dufresne is missing from his cell. A guard marches down to his cell and the cell is empty. The warden opens up his shoebox to find Andy's old shoes inside. Just at that moment, the prison sirens go off. The warden stands in Andy's cell and angrily throws Andy's rocks at the wall. One hits the poster, and it goes right through the poster and the wall. He tears down the poster to find a tunnel carved through the wall. In 1966, Andy Dufresne escaped from Shawshank. All police found was a muddy set of prison clothes, a bar of soap, and a rock hammer. Taken back to the night in the warden's office, Andy switches the books, putting the warden's book down his pants. On his way back to his cell, he wears the shined warden's shoes. He stands up after the cells close and takes his prison uniform off to reveal a suit he's wearing underneath. He starts crawling through the tunnel, crawls down some pipes, grabs a rock in his hand, and starts busting through a sewer pipe as the lightning strikes outside. He gets into the sewage pipes, filled with feces and muck, and crawls 500 yards to emerge outside of the prison. He takes his prison clothes off and stands laughing in the pouring rain. In the morning, he strolls into a bank with a new identity, Randall Stevens. He visits a dozen banks, collecting $370,000 of the warden's money. He mails a package with the warden's financial book inside. The warden picks up a newspaper titled, "Corruption, Murder at Shawshank." Cops start racing towards the prison, and the warden opens his safe to find the Holy Bible inside, signed by Andy. Byron Hadley is arrested, and the warden shoots himself before he can be arrested. Red gets a blank postcard from Fort Hancock, Texas, right on the border of Mexico. He is called in front of the parole board, and they ask him if he feels he's been rehabilitated. He answers differently this time, saying he feels regret every day, but needs to live with what he has done. His parole is approved, and he gets released and is sent to the same room in the same house that Brooks lived in. He bags groceries for a while, living the same life Brooks did when he got out. He decides that he needs to keep the promise he made to Andy. He arrives in Buxton and begins to search for the field with the long rock wall and oak tree. He finally finds it and walks along the rock wall. He finds the black volcanic glass rock and finds a box with a picture of a ship on it, buried beneath. He opens the box to find a letter from Andy and cash inside. The letter says if he came this far, maybe he is willing to come a little further. He asks him if he remembers the name of the town and could use a man to help him. Red returns to his halfway house, packs his bag, and gets on a bus to Fort Hancock, Texas. He arrives on an empty white sand beach and sees Andy sanding a boat in the distance. They see each other and smile, and walk towards each other to embrace.